Parks, Recreation, Community Services Commission, today, August 6th. And let's start with, okay, I'm calling it to order at 7 o'clock. Please do roll call for us.
Commissioner Peters, Commissioner Mohammed, Commissioner Bond,
Here.
Vice Chair Alexander, Chair Leonard.
Here.
3 are present and 2 are absent.
Okay. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Go ahead and face the flag, and let's repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do we have any public comment for items not on the agenda?
Right now. We do not at this time.
Okay. And the next item is receipt of correspondence. It needs to be noted that the commissioners received 2 emails that we need to have a vote of acceptance of receipt of correspondence. Adam, is there anything else that I need to mention with that, in that regard? Okay. So we'll need a motion and second to receive, right?
Do we want to wait on Commissioner Mohammed?
Yes, we can. Hi, Commissioner Mohammed.
Oh,
Please let the record show that Commissioner Mohammed arrived at 7:02.
So we are on receipt of correspondence, and there were 2 emails that were received by all of us. And so we were just voting, we're going to need a motion and a second to accept that correspondence.
I have a motion by Commissioner Bond, seconded by Vice Chair Alexander, to receive and file the receipt of correspondence. And you may start voting.
I don't have voting buttons. That was missing before. There you go. Thank you.
And the votes are in, and that passes unanimously.
Thank you. Community announcements by members and items from staff. Staff, would you like to go now, or do you want to wait?
We can wait.
Okay. And how about from members? Any items? Okay, Commissioner Alexander?
I don't normally wear a hat to a meeting, so I'll take this one off. But you may recognize this one as the hat from the Parks Plan meeting. And I have to tell you, this is really true. And I found it happening again this evening when I was at the National Night Out at Veterans Park. These hats are very popular, and I've had several people suggest to me that they should have some printed up and sold at the Fiesta, so I don't know if that's a possibility or not. But anyway, that's just chatter out there, and people really liked, you know, whoever did the artwork on that. A second item I wanted to mention is this Sunday is the close of the 2024 Olympic Games in Paris. And the city is holding an event that will be held on the steps. I believe it starts at 6 p.m. with some games and things for children, followed by other activities, music and so forth at 7 p.m. So that would be this Sunday at the steps. That's kind of like a precursor in getting the community excited for what's going to be happening in 2028, which is when the Olympics come to Los Angeles, and our city is preparing various activities associated with that, including our favorite PRCS department. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Okay. All right, so thank you. Let's move on to I1, information item, an update on the development of the Parks Plan.
Sorry, I had my notes here with my dates and I couldn't find it.
That's okay.
Yeah, so the Parks Plan's moving along really, really, really well. Owen's doing an amazing job. I think we announced at the last meeting that we were going to be having the virtual update meeting. I can't remember if any of you were able to make it to that or not. I don't think so, but it was recorded and it is up on the website. So if you want to go back, you can watch it. It's on the project's website. If you can't find it or having any troubles, let us know. We can send you the link. But it was a good meeting. They provided a lot of good updates. Actually showed a couple of the concepts that they're working on. Our staff had a meeting at their offices and looked at some of their first drafts of some of the parks and ideas that they have. A lot of great stuff they've got going on. They're being extremely, extremely thorough. They're meeting, we met today with the planning department again to talk about certain areas and spaces and park space. And we met with Baldwin Hills Conservancy recently. Like they're knocking out of the park and they're really getting into everything. All the different city plans are, going to meld into this. And we have some upcoming things. On August 14th, they're going to be doing a presentation at the Disability Advisory Committee, giving them kind of an update. They also met with the Culver Arts Foundation recently. I think that was a couple of weeks ago too. And then they're supposed to be giving us like a draft plan in middle September maybe. And then that draft plan, so they'll have up on the website, the general feedback link will be gone and there'll now be specific ones. So they'll be able to, if they want to specifically comment on each park or any other of the sections of the draft plan, they'll be able to comment specifically on those things instead of just a general thing. So they can still give feedback, but they can still do general, but they'll have opportunities for specific feedback on specific parks or specific programs or ideas. They'll be having some community meetings on September 24th at Culver West Alexander, and then on October 2nd at Lindbergh. They're going to be coming and presenting to you in September on the draft plan, so you'll be seeing it pretty early on. And then they're going to be doing a presentation to the Planning Commission September, October, maybe. We're still working that out. So things are coming along really well. We're really excited. We think we're going to get a really good product.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have questions with regard to that? Thank you. It is really exciting. So, okay, great. So moving on to consent calendar, we have 2 consent calendar items of minutes, approval of minutes for the regular PRCS Commission meeting of July 2nd, and then also approval of the minutes for the special PRCS Commission meeting of July 22nd. We can take them together as a vote unless anyone has comments or wants to pull either of those for corrections or anything. Commissioner Alexander, Vice Chair Alexander.
I should have read it over a little bit more carefully to see if this item was in the one regarding our special meeting, but I believe that there was a comment that you, the chair, actually made regarding the creation of the subcommittee to emphasize the fact that although it is worded to look at 1 or 2 possibilities of tennis courts being restriped, you also indicated in your words, I believe, that there's also then the possibility that if none of them make any logical sense based on the metrics of what the subcommittee had to say, that that is also a possible outcome from the subcommittee. And obviously, the final outcome comes to the commission, so I would like to make sure that the minutes reflect that observation.
So we would want to take each vote individually, vote for C1 as approved as is, and then C2 as amended.
We can do that. Thank you. So we'll start with C1, if there's no issues there.
So I have a motion by Commissioner Bond, seconded by Vice Chair Alexander, to approve the minutes for the regular Parks, Recreation, and Community Service Commission meeting on July 2nd. And you may start voting. And the votes are in, and that passes unanimously.
So C2, and I don't recall seeing that referenced. So it probably should be because it was brought up as such. So how can we amend those to include a statement?
So you will vote to approve as amended.
Okay.
And then before I send it to the city clerk, I'll update the minutes to reflect what was mentioned tonight.
Okay, great. Thank you. Then we'll need a motion and a second to approve as amended. And thank you for that observation.
So I have a motion by Commissioner Mohammed, seconded by Commissioner Bond, to approve as amended the minutes for the Special Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission meeting of July 22nd. And you may start voting. And the votes are in, and that passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll move into, we have order of the agenda. Does anyone feel compelled to change the order of our action items? Okay, thank you. So we'll go ahead and proceed with A1, the receipt and filing of the report regarding the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Department fiscal year 2024-2025 adopted budget. And I believe we have a staff presentation.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Adam Ferguson. I am the Senior Management Analyst for Parks, Recreation, and Community Services. So I'm going to do an overview of this year's budget, explain how we amended the budget throughout the budget process, and I will also be referencing your letter to explain how that was handled and what was approved. So for the 2024-2025 year, most of our budget comes from the general fund. That is 12.8 million is what we are funded from the general fund. The Cultural Trust Fund has 1.1 million. That doesn't fully go to just us, but we do have access to those funds. And then there is an operating grant called CDBG, which right now sits at 1.2 million. That grant, it pays for some of the services we offer for disability. And currently in our payroll side, we have a total of 35 full-time positions. That changed this year because we took 2 3-quarter positions over at the pool and made it 1 full-time position with full benefits. So that's where that one of the changes came. And then we also have another change that I'll talk about later.
Through the chair. Could you explain a little bit what the Cultural Trust Fund is all about? Because I'm not familiar with that one.
The Cultural Trust Fund handles art in public places, and it also handles the maintenance of the art in public places. So, for example, maintaining the space around the artwork in Carlson Park. There's also discussion of maybe putting fencing there or changing how it is so that people can't climb on that artwork. So all of that would come out of the Cultural Trust Fund.
And the revenue source, correct me if I'm wrong, comes from a percentage of the cost of large building developments in the city?
That is one of the sources for the Cultural Trust Fund, yes.
The major one, I presume.
I would presume.
Yes, thank you.
So before we get into detail, I get a lot of questions pretty regularly about the account numbers in the budget and how to read them. So when we're looking at an account line, the first three numbers explain the source that the funds are coming from. You will discover as we dive into this presentation, almost all of our funding comes from the general fund, which is 101. So all of our account numbers start, except for one, it starts with 101. The department from finance has been assigned the number 30. So the the next set of numbers is always the department code. So we are Department 30 according to the budget book. And then the last three numbers would be the division. And I'll break this down more in the next slide, but we have 17 divisions. So that is divided up by a division number. And then after the period is always the line item within that division. I'm not going to be going into that detail tonight because I'm just planning on giving an overview, but every line item has its own number that is associated with that account code. So when we're looking at our divisions within our budget, we have 17 divisions in our department. The first one is the administrative division that holds the salaries for the director and the senior management analyst. It also holds the contracts that are large citywide contracts. So two, like off the top of my head, contracts that sit in this budget code would be this contract that covers security for the city and also the crossing guard contract. Those are pretty large contracts that are citywide. So those live within that division. The second one is Veterans Memorial Complex, which that holds for payroll part-time salaries for the rental clerks, and it also covers anything that the rental operation needs for Veterans Memorial Complex, which includes Veterans Building and when the Senior Center, Teen Center, or Plunge are rented. That all falls within the complex. The next one is Recreation Services. This holds the majority of full-time staff. I will specifically point out when other divisions have full-time staff. If I don't say, hey, this is where full-time staff is, it's because it's in Recreation Services. The majority of our staff is there for full-time. Recreation Services also holds the majority of the staff training money that for us to send staff to certain conferences and workshops and get certifications. The fourth one is Parks and Playgrounds. This is our division that handles the parks and facilities. So it is a large part-time staff division because it covers any part-time staff that work the parks and handle those outdoor rentals. Then we have our camp division, we have our pool and aquatics division, we have our after-school division, which those are all pretty straightforward. Those programs are funded through those division lines. When we look at 8 and 9, sports programs and recreation and enrichment programs, this covers all of our contract instructors. It's just divided up between sports and enrichment. So, we have our youth sports programs that falls in sports programs. We have something like ceramics would fall under enrichment, but those are where those contracts live. The part-time staff that support the registration office fall under recreation and enrichment programs. Youth Center and Youth Mentoring Program, that specifically is the Teen Center. So it supports all the programming and the contracts. For a while, we contracted with UCLA to bring in tutoring services, which fell under that mentoring program. Currently, that's being refigured out. Community events would be the events outside of Fiesta, so extravaganza or things of that nature. And then Fiesta, of course, has its own budget line. Then Parks Maintenance has its own budget line and contains all full-time staff in the Parks Maintenance division along with all of their contracts. Community services includes the senior center. Within that, their payroll includes the supervisor and the coordinators over at the senior center. So the community services is really all encompassing of the senior center and their staff. Volunteering and disability, they have their own line separating out some of their staff because we have grants that sometimes pay for those staff. Sometimes we don't have the grants, sometimes we do. So they're separated out, but they also fall within that senior center community services program. Disability services, you'll see, does not start with a 101 because that's that CDBG. I always mess up the order of those letters. That's that programming. So as you can see, CDBG. So as you can see, that starts with 427 to show that that's where that funding is coming from.
Question?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Regarding the administrative division, you indicated that the school guard crossing program funds are there.
Correct.
I believe that there's been a change in terms of the responsibility of PRCS with respect to that, and that the school district is taking over more. The school, as my understanding is the school district was taking over administration of the program, but the city continues to fund it. Is that
So
accurate?
that was approved by the city council in
Yes.
the most recent budget. It still needs to be approved by the school board.
Okay. Okay, so what I'm talking about next would be then in concept. We may need to consider leaving it there for the current fiscal year until things wind over and get handed off. But my question is, given the fact that school crossing guards aren't something that you would normally find with a Parks, Recreation, and Community Services department, and that having the money sit within the department kind of inflates the amount of money if somebody hasn't gone through a wonderful presentation like this and understands what's in there, what would you plan for the future in terms of asking whether that money still remain within the PRCS budget?
I mean, that's ultimately always going to be the decision of the city council and the chief financial officer.
But it could be part
it's-
of a conversation.
It's got to be somewhere. I think it got moved to our department 2 years ago, or was it last year that it got moved to our department? Yeah, I think it was last fiscal year it got moved to our department.
I'm just used to models, having worked in other cities, when you have some kind of a general function that has an arrangement that is going to be like we're going to have with the school district, that it normally would not reside with an operating department like PRCS, but it would reside with something like a finance department or possibly a city manager's office. That's why I'm asking the questions. Thank you.
So when we're looking at all of our divisions across how they're funded for this current fiscal year, sometimes people like to just focus on how much money is in the Parks Division. I want to take this time to remind you that Recreation actually covers the 11 divisions before you hit Parks. So when you start to add everything up, the Parks and Recreation do tend to be more equal among each other. When we're going through the budget process, there are 3 ways that the department can request changes to our budget. We can request CIP funding for special projects. We can request enhancements, which would be additional funds for specific purposes, and we can also request reallocation of funds that are already within our budget. So throughout the next few slides, I'm going to be discussing each of those 3 and how we did that this specific fiscal year. So for the sake of this, there we go. Okay, there we go. So for this presentation, I'm only focusing on the new capital improvement projects that we have. We do have a few capital improvement projects that roll over from last year, which I'll talk about during our work plans. But our new capital improvement projects are funded from two different sources. So the 419 funds, which are blue, those are the park development funds that are received from development projects throughout the city. And then the 420 funds comes from facility or park reserves that the city has. So those are the two differences. For this year, our new capital improvement projects are soundproofing for the tennis courts, new park signage in all the parks, resurfacing, restriping courts. We have a park playground rehabilitation that got funded, playground equipment repair, the Mwello consultant, and the community garden were all funded.
I have a question. Am I allowed to still pretend like I'm a newbie even though I'm in my second year on the commission?
You can do whatever you want.
With respect to the capital programs, when was the last time that PRCS actually did something new? By that, I mean, we used to not have a dog park, and now we have a dog park. I mean, I see a lot of the programs here are things that we need to have done. We're refurbishing playground areas, but we're not necessarily making new playground areas, and we're research. I'm just trying to remember.
I was just asking if it was Tellefson, the playground at Tellefson, because they didn't have one there previously.
Oh, and when was that?
I think it's 2019.
Thank you.
Do you have a question?
There was a playground there, just wasn't very big. So when we do playground rehab, we raise the whole thing and build a new playground. It's not like, oh, we put a paint job on it. Like, it's major. All of the playground rehabs that we have done over the years have all been tear downs. And I'm sure you'll hear all the complaints from the folks up on the hill there about their missing cheese that had to get removed as part of that. So, you know, yes, it says playground rehabilitation, but generally it is that equipment is so out of date, it just gets removed and we put brand new stuff in there. So that is probably the most that we do in terms of brand new construction.
Yes, I understand, and clearly from what we hear from the public, the playgrounds are well-used and when they're in need of refurbishment. But what I'm also thinking is, you know, looking towards the future in terms of what the department offers, we look to, as some of the commissioners have discussed in the past, different kind of, you know, recreational programs as times change or bring things back that have been here in the past. But as far as physical plant, we haven't really done anything new other than these major refurbishments that we're talking about. However we want to talk about Tellefson, I'm not going to quarrel about the differences of the interpretation. I'm just wondering about that kind of thing, that's all. Because I can think back of certain kind of things that I remember, but I didn't remember anything really new other than the dog park for quite some time. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I'm just.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, once you see the drafts come in on the parks plan, you know, hopefully you might see some possible new things that could be, you know,
Yes,
potentially become to fruition.
we are hopeful.
Thank you. I also have a question on this slide. So in the past, we have raised, or I have raised the question about including the playground equipment and other assets and equipment of the PRCS department into the city's equipment, or I guess they call it now the Asset Replacement Fund, and was informed at the time, because we looked at including it in a letter. In fact, I think last year we did include it in our budget letter to the city council. And the finance director explained that there are funds that are already set aside specifically for PRCS for that kind of thing, so that there is potentially a buildup of funds over the course of years so that the funds are available when it's time to replace that equipment. So which of these funds would that money be in, if any of them?
It would be in either of them, 420 or 419. 419, because it's park development, it really is focused for our department to use for the parks. So we do try to spend it each year and roll it into capital improvement projects. 420, there are various different levels of 420 funds because there's just different reserves. And so depending on what item you're asking about, if we got specific to whatever it is, we work with finance to discuss which reserve actually works, because each reserve has its own kind of set of rules on which ones we can jump into.
Sure.
And so they find the one and recommend the one that we need to be using.
But the department doesn't pay in on an annual basis within its budget in an amortization type of way, like it would with the vehicles?
Correct, no.
Okay. I just hope it's enough. I hope that there's enough to use along the way, is my only comment. Okay, thank you.
So for the 24-25 year, the enhancements that were received, starting with personnel, we have a new recreation specialist that was added to the community events budget line. We added additional personnel for the in-house pilot youth sports program. There's additional funding for registration office staffing. The park staff there's some reclassifications that are being considered by HR that has been approved if HR approves it. There's additional funding for Fiesta La Bayona staffing. And we have an additional irrigation maintenance technician, which I'll talk more about when we get to your letter.
Question regarding the reclassifications.
Mm-hmm.
Are the reclassifications of the type that would make it easier task to recruit for these type of positions, or is it something else?
Well, it was us planning ahead. There's a study going on internally with HR as it is for all positions. And so, yeah, I mean, it was looking at reclassifying some of our crew leaders and to make them more equal. So, yeah, I guess you could look at it that way as hoping to retain or recruit in the future. But
I had a question about the in-house pilot youth programs, sports programs. What sports are you looking at to do a pilot program?
currently, we're looking at probably basketball. Since we have ASO, we have Little League. So I think for now, we want to start with basketball and then maybe branch out from there.
I'm just curious, is there a reason why you would be, because when I was looking at the budget, it was like a 3 to 5 week program. I know I'm jumping ahead. But it was looking at a 3 to 5 week program. These are part-time positions. I would say it's a minimal cost for like 8 people for part-time. But we have a number of outside contractors that already use the parks and pay us a certain amount of money in order to use the parks. And I was wondering, is it because they aren't fulfilling or what is it that we are actually going to be fulfilling what the purpose is, or what is it actually that we are going to be able to bring? Because as you add more into that, are we going to be charging for those youth programs? As you add more into that, what happens is that we're going to have to start, that includes certain amount of payroll taxes, and that actually increases what goes into our budget. So will it be offset And how is that going to affect, if you expand, how is that going to affect the programs that are already out there, that are already well-established? And why would we want to compete, so to speak, with programs that are already well-established when there's, you know what I mean, when they seem to be doing okay with that?
Well, again, I think we're looking to try not to compete, which is why we're not doing soccer or T-ball or any of those things. Although I can tell you in previous cities that I've worked at that we had multiple programs. But just to stay on topic for the item that's on the agenda, I'll just speak to our program. This is a pilot program. We want to see that's why it's shorter length. It's a pilot to see if there's a demand. If we have people sign up, is there demand? We think it will be popular. We think it will be well received from the community. I know the city council was very enthusiastic about it. And so we will see. I don't think we have all the details yet. There will probably be a small fee to help offset some of the costs. But we do want to keep it affordable. We want to make sure that it's inclusive and that it's going to be more focused on skill development, team building, having fun, as opposed to, winning trophies and, all-star tournaments. And that's not our focus. Our focus is, inclusion, teamwork, and skill building. And that's where we'll focus, and we think it will be well-received and popular.
Well, I do just have to say that I feel like a lot of the team sports now, especially even for the little kids, are focused too much on winning trophies
Right.
and less on all of what you're discussing.
And that's what we're here for.
Thank you.
So moving on to the operation and maintenance, we have additional funding to cover security costs. Security has shifted in the city. Not only do we have security at City Hall, but we have security at the Kirk Douglas. We have security over transportation, and we have security within our own operation. And within our own operation, we've expanded it from just being at the senior center to also being at vets. So we have additional funding for those security costs. We received increased supplies for the in-house pilot youth sports program. We received increased supplies to hold pop-up events at the various parks throughout Culver City, which I'll talk more about in our work plans. And then we also received funding to hire a consultant to maintain the Kazuka Garden at down the street at the library. So it was requested that I talk about how our work plans are incorporated into the budget. So starting with our first work plan, we have the Parks Master Plan, which we are in the process of finishing. So that was funded during the 2023-2024 budget, and all of that remaining funding is rolled over into this budget so that we can finish paying the consultant. Another work plan we have is to create an action plan on education and promoting public safety. That action plan is being handled within our budget. We have a work plan to expand recreational programming with free and low-cost pop-up programming. So that falls into that enhancement that we received. We have a work plan for senior mobility services. This work plan started in 2023-2024 and is in conjunction with transportation. So the funding that was for that work plan has been rolled over into this fiscal year. The Mwello consultant is being funded through a CIP that we received. Through the enhancements that we've talked about, we are covering our work plan for the pilot youth sports program. We are hosting micro events at all park sites. That includes the bike safety rodeo, the sensory Saturdays, and some Earth Day events. Those, much like the other low-income pop-ups, are funded through that enhancement. And then we have the playground replacement, which was funded by a CIP. So those were our work plans that were submitted to City Council. As we have discussed, you also submitted your letter. So how your letter was handled. So in the letter, you requested additional positions. You requested a maintenance worker 1 and an irrigation maintenance tech. This has been an ongoing request, as Commissioner Mohammed can attest. So for this year, we very luckily were given the irrigation maintenance tech. So we plan on next year sticking to asking again for the maintenance worker one. You requested upgrades to the playgrounds, so that helped get us to the amount we got for our CIP and funding for playground upgrades. You requested that the playground maintenance in the operating budget, playground maintenance be added to the operating budget. So this remained a CIP for this year. One reason was the city manager and city council requested that all enhancements be connected to revenue and to explain how we were backing up our enhancement request. So instead of trying to focus all of our revenue on moving playground equipment to operating budget, we kept it in a CIP. The in-house youth programming was funded by the enhancement. The MWello request that you have for a consultant, that was funded by a CIP with the understanding that that comes ongoing upgrades and an ongoing discussion. So city manager knows this is just the beginning of this process and more detailed requests will be coming in future years. And then you requested that more mulch, that we have more funding for mulch. So instead of bringing this as an enhancement, the department did reallocate money into the park maintenance division to cover mulch. That reallocation is an ongoing reallocation, which what for mulch has been added to the park maintenance budget.
I do have a question about the mulch.
Yes.
Because when the tree services come around and cut down our trees, and then they wood chip those trees, that would make great mulch. And I don't know, obviously, maybe it's just an agreement that the city has with the tree trimmers. I'm not really sure what it is, but it seems kind of like we should be able to get some of that mulch from our trees that are being trimmed to use rather than it coming, it seems silly, but finding a way to, I don't know, it may have to do with contract. You see what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
it just seems like they come around and trim the trees. And
I will say, in your budget letter, you use the word mulch. So for this presentation, I use the word mulch. We actually technically can't have mulch.
Oh.
We have to have what's called, and Danny is like laughing inside her head about what I'm about to say. We have to use the word wood grain fiber.
Oh.
And Danny can explain more, but it's a state requirement, correct, Danny, on what can actually be in our mulch and what it can be composed of and made up of. So taking just chips from trees, we actually, by state requirements, can't do that.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you for that clarification. I was going to ask about like, what's this wood fiber business?
Yeah.
Good.
Almost every other time I've been good about saying wood grain fiber, except for the one time it counted.
And the city actually has its own mulch procurement policy. So it is very specific on what it entails.
Thank you.
And that concludes my presentation on our budget, how we allocated everything this year, how we came about trying to honor all the requests. But we are, of course, available for any questions about the budget outside of anything that we said, or if you need more clarity.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from commissioners? In regards to any of this or the
The
associated?
current presentation or the actual
The
budget?
associated, I think that would include the associated attachments.
Okay.
Yes.
So I did have some questions, and bear with me because this is my first, or is my second month, my third meeting. So I just need some clarification. So one of my comments was going to be about the question was going to be about the community gardens. I have a garden at home, and I love it. I spent a lot of time in it, so much time in it. But I'm not familiar with Sid Cronenthal Park so much. I need to go over there and take a look. But obviously, I've been to the Vets Park a lot. And there's only really one place where I could see a viable spot for a garden, especially if you're talking about growing things, because the amount of shade in that park, besides when we're not talking about where the actual fields are. And so I am 100% for community gardens. I think they're wonderful. I just want to know, I'm curious as to where you envision or where where you guys have talked about putting that community garden, because literally I can only think of one spot that could go that's not going to interfere with all the stuff we have going on.
Well, which of you would like to give a comprehensive summry
I
explanation?
would say that like that is getting a little off topic
Yeah,
because we
that's
do
not
need
a
to talk
budget
about the budget.
question.
Oh, okay. So,
Right.
okay.
So, yes, thank you. So, Commissioner Bond, I can fill you in on the history because we had
I would also just quickly say that the locations went to city council.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there wasn't, there's not a lot of wiggle room on that.
No,
because
I
it
was
voted
I
on.
just wanted to know where it was going to be. That's all, because I'm trying to envision the park.
okay.
So there was a reclassification of the park manager. And it cut some of the salary off. And then it kept saying that it was offsetting 3 crew leader increases, that the total, and as well as senior irrigation, and then parks maintenance supervisor for a total of $34,600, with the difference of being above that, almost $20,000. I was just kind of curious how we were saying that's offsetting all of that, because to me, it really just offsets only a portion of it. It popped out to me. I'm not saying, obviously, not to do it. I just wanted to know why we kept saying this is offsetting this and this is offsetting this, when after $14,633, it can't really offset anything anymore. Does that make sense? Or am I just being nitpicky?
Do you all want to talk?
Because for the crew leaders, it's 25,500, and then it's 8,500 for the irrigation maintenance technician, and it's 600 the parks maintenance supervisor. And to me, I'm not saying it's not needed. It was just this term of saying offsetting something.
Yeah, it was to help offset, but again, those are all still dependent on the class comp study.
And then because the budget went to 0 for the youth mentoring, Adam said that we were, I guess, we're pausing that for right now. Is that why the budget is 0?
No, it just got moved to a different,
Okay.
it got moved over, what did it get moved to?
It got moved to youth center.
Youth
So
center, so-
instead of having staff split, because in that division, there was funding for staff in both, we moved all of it to youth center so that it wasn't locked into only being part of the mentoring program.
Ah, okay. And then this is just a clarification for me. And it makes me realize just that you have 35 employees, so you guys are probably wear a lot of hats. But full-time employees is what I'm saying, not.
I was gonna say, that's just full-time.
That's full-time. So just because when I looked through the different departments, I saw, not full-time, but I don't remember exactly what you called it. But I would see just a little bit, unless it said part-time employee, there would be a little bit was put into this department, and it would say staff. And at first, I didn't understand what was happening, because this is my first time looking at your guys' budget. So I guess I just want to clarify this, if anybody does happen to be watching this, that what is happening is that a portion of the full-time employees' time, or certain full-time employees' time, are put into a department, and that's what they do, and that's why it's allocated as this amount. Say $9,500 is this amount in this department, because a certain staff member or a couple staff members are putting X amount of time into that. Is that what we're doing when we? I'm just trying to understand it so that when I look at the budget, I understand why we have these different allocations. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
So are you just wanting to know, you're mostly referring to full-time
Yes, yeah, because the part-time makes sense to me. But when you say full-time employee and they're working in this department and there's only $9,500 for that going toward that full-time employee.
Oh, then, yeah,
so
their time
what
might
I'm-
be split over different
Right,
codes,
that's what I'm
potentially.
saying.
I mean,
So you
it's
guys wear a lot
possible.
of different hats, and so you just split it up according to the departments also because of what their budget is, so the amount of time.
Yeah, I don't,
I think the terminology would be division.
Right, division, oh, I thought you said
They're
we had
crossing
17
divisions.
departments.
No,
Potentially.
divisions.
Divisions, okay,
So I
sorry.
would say that there are a lot of positions that are spread over multiple divisions.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, the easiest example is that we have a position that is a coordinator that is disabilities, which is paid partially out of that grant fund.
Okay.
But also they work at the senior center, so they get paid also out of the community services. So there are times that people, and their timesheets would be, like, if you ever want to do a public records request on timesheets, you would see multiple lines that showing where they're being paid out of and what percentage comes from where.
Okay, so I wanted to clarify that for me, but also if someone happened to look through it and say, how come it's this way? And just so people understand, but also me.
Can I also go back to your last question? Because I was able to pull up the attachment. So something to, I guess I could just show it. I don't need to keep it a secret. So the way it was broken down, we do have some positions. So by classifying that parks manager position, we have a savings of 14,000 and change. There are positions that were funded with some of that savings, but this big chunk, which is the last line here, that was 25,000 that the crew leaders were being adjusted. That was also funded because after, in large part due to COVID, there's been a rediscovery of our picnic rentals, and our revenue has increased dramatically for that. And so we're using that revenue line also to explain that. So even though some of it is coming out of that park manager reclassification savings, not all of that 25,000 came from there. It also came from that revenue that we're adding into our budget this year, because we haven't really claimed that revenue. We just kept going way over it. And this is the first year that we raised that revenue at the beginning of the year and said, hey, like, this isn't a one-time thing like we were thinking for a while. This is going to stay for a while.
Okay, I did wonder when I read that, but there was a lot to read.
There was a lot to read, I understand. Welcome to my mind. Welcome.
And I don't know if this would be considered budget, it sort of is, because it's talking about the participants, and I was looking at and when you talk about the participants in, for instance, I'll say the plunge, but I was looking at all of them. We've had a few where there was an increase, but the vast majority has seemed to be a decrease. The plunge in particular has been 4,000. I don't know if that's registration, because 100 and something thousand participants seems like a lot, so I would imagine that's registration. I just want to be clear, I can't imagine us having over 100,000 in different people, because we're a city of Fort, I mean, could happen, but I don't see quite that much at the plunge.
And that information is in the budget, within the budget data?
Yeah, so you're asking about the revenue for the plunge?
Well, all I'm saying is that when you talk about participants, are we talking about the number of registrations or the actual individual people?
We would be talking about the people who actually register, because that affects our revenue. So
Okay.
we're talking about the revenue income from participants.
Okay.
So like if you're if it's like $5 to go to an event, when we talk about the participants, we're talking about each person that paid $5.
Oh, so that was money and not the number of people?
What specifically were you referencing?
Well, the issue is I was trying to pull it up on here, and I keep getting an error. So,
It sounds like the question is, if there are 100,000 units of of revenue or toward revenue generated as as participants, is that the number of actual registrations, which could be multiple people doing multiple registrations, or is that individuals?
Yes.
Is that what you're trying to ask?
Are you talking, or is it money? Have we just lost $4,000, or were we down in revenue $4,000? Or is it the registration of, instead of, say, 120,000, not necessarily people, but 120,000 registrations, as opposed to 120,000 people? Do you see what I'm saying? Because people can register, a person can register 7 times or however many times they want per, to swim with the plunge. But in a week, if it's available.
Is this what you're referencing, our performance measures from the
Yes.
budget book?
Yes.
So our performance measures by the budget book are people, not money, and it's based on reports we run. So if you register with our online registration system, we're looking at only those programs where you use ActiveNet, our online registration program, and those numbers are the registered participants per person.
So we have 128,000 and change registered people registered to use the plunge. Individual people.
What we're not counting is, the plunge is tricky because it's, a person could register for 4 things in one day. So it's not, if a person registers, they're not out of the ruling. We had 128,000, we're projecting that many people are going to register. And I could be counted more than once because I might register for more than one thing.
So those are registrations.
So
Those
those
are
are
registrations.
registrations.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what I was saying,
Yeah.
as opposed to the people.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, it's registration.
Because you could have one person have 365 registrations.
Right.
In a year.
Well, that's all that I was.
So these are
that's all that I was
registration
saying.
units, I
Okay.
guess.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
that's all I wanted to clear, because I was thinking 128,000 people came to the plunge. Where are they?
No, yes.
Of registrations, I could see. So,
But actually, on that table, more than 128,000 people came last year. The actuals are 132,000.
no, that's from 2020, oh, I'm talking about this year, yeah. Or the 23, 24.
Yeah, that's-
So, but, yeah, that's registrations, that's not people.
Right.
So that's different. I think, and also talking about this, we've had a decrease of the number of contractors by like 26 from 2022 to 2023. And I guess what I had a question about those programs, so are those the events, individual events? So, because when you go online to sign up, we don't have 420 or 410 different programs. That would be insane. But I just have to say, that would be like, oh my God, how do I choose? But so is that like the individual events? So like if someone has 4 or 8, a pottery class with 8 classes, would you be counting each one of those as?
No, so for the number of programs and events led by contractors, so the pottery is a kind of a good example because it's offered year-round, but it's offered, you register for seasonally.
Right.
So we're offering each time you can register for a new class. We're counting it.
Okay.
We're also, though, taking into account that we have senior programming. That's also included into this number.
That's actually, yeah, that has a lot.
So whereas it might not seem like we have, like in 2022 to 2023, it was 436, so it might not seem like we have 436 things you can sign up for online. We do have things that people don't sign up for online.
Okay, yeah. Well, thank you for being so patient with me and explaining everything. I'm sure I will have more questions, but hopefully not tonight.
It's all good. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. Commissioner Mohammed, do you have anything?
Yeah. So another successful letter We got a lot this year. So I like that every year that we have really put the time and effort into putting in those letters. We seem to be, we've been getting return on our investment. Because when I came here, we got nothing. Like, we were basically ignored. We have consistently been putting in letters. We beef them up every year, and we've been getting things that we need. So I'm happy to see that the council and the city manager are listening to us and and our voice for the community. So that part I'm happy about.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Alexander.
Following along what Commissioner Mohammed was saying regarding the budget letter, I would like to encourage for our next go-around that it is clear on our agenda what it is we're trying to do with that item, because I want to encourage the public to know when we're discussing those items so that they can also be able to actively participate with us as a commission in terms of what their concerns are. Because the way it normally works is, you go to a park and you see somebody and they know you're a commissioner, they might mention something, but that's a very special time of year where we work very hard, as was mentioned, to put together and craft a letter that has been very successful. So I would like to encourage the community to know exactly when we're doing it, and, if there's a way we can write that on the agenda to encourage their participation with us in that, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, notably, the department's requests were granted by the city manager, and that is really remarkable. It doesn't say something. I mean, I'm not saying that, oh gosh, sometimes, a lot of times that never happens. It doesn't have to do with personalities or anything, but it does show a tremendous amount of trust, I think, in the department and department staff and leadership. The city manager really acknowledged that these are the things that they know that they need and granted, and the city council approved that. So it's really notable for all of you. So thank you. And yes, it was fun to to have positive response to our letter as well. So we need unless there are any other questions or comments, we will take a motion and second to receive and file this report regarding the fiscal year 25 adopted budget.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Alexander, seconded by Commissioner Bond, to receive and file the report regarding the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Department fiscal year 2024-2025 adopted budget. And you may start voting.
Adam?
There you go. Now you can start voting.
Thank you.
And the votes are in, and that passes unanimously.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, and our item A2, receipt and filing of updates from the members of the PRCS Commission, ad hoc subcommittees, and representative appointees to outside associations and city committees. And we have our list. So let's go ahead and start with our first one. The longest acronym, well, one of the longest acronyms, the CAPRSIBM, the California Association of Parks and Recreation Commissioners and Board Members. We have appointee Commissioner Peters, who is not here, and Commissioner Mohammed. Do you have anything?
No updates.
No updates? Okay. Next, we have the Culver City Senior Citizens Association Board of Directors, Vice Chair Alexander and Commissioner Bond.
They did not hold a meeting last month. Next month, as I have mentioned, I will not be here for our commission meeting, and if Commissioner Bond could please attend the next meeting at the senior center, since I'll also be absent for that. I'd appreciate it.
I can do that. I just need to know when.
It's the second Monday of each month at 1 PM at the senior center.
Okay.
So
And they
we
love
don't have
having
a
gifts.
September calendar over there for me to look at, but yeah.
I'll have to put it in my calendar.
Okay. Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. Then we have the ad hoc subcommittees. The first is the Summer Olympics Preparation Ad hoc Subcommittee with the appointees of Commissioner Mohammed and Vice Chair Alexander. Any reports?
Unfortunately, no. We're still getting little bits and pieces here and there from the main ad hoc subcommittee at the council, and we're still waiting for some further inputs and requests for us to support them, so.
Okay. Okay. And then our next one, our last one, is the Dual Stripe Tennis Courts Ad hoc Subcommittee, which was established at our special meeting. And those representatives are Commissioner Bond and Vice Chair.
Through
I
the-
apologize, that's a
correct.
typo.
The chair, I believe that it's Commissioner
It
Peters is the second person.
Yes, thank you. I was just going to say that. So Commissioner Bond, is there anything you want to share if you've met with staff yet, or?
We haven't met with staff yet. I actually emailed about it, and
Okay.
Director Stevens actually got back to me Sunday night, totally surprising me. Like, do you ever stop?
No, he doesn't.
And, but Commissioner Peters is on vacation, so we will have to meet next week.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I believe that completes that item, so we just need a motion to receive and file those updates.
You all didn't have any updates? So we don't have anything to receive and file.
Oh, there wasn't really anything shared.
So
Oh, that's true.
we
Okay.
can just move on to the next item.
Okay, we will launch to the next item, which is the receipt and filing of the Parks, Recreation, Community Services Commission 2024 meeting calendar with the upcoming agenda items list and any adjustments.
So I have a few changes that have happened since this was released last week.
Okay.
That I want to make everyone aware of. So for the remaining, your remaining meetings of the year, they are on September 3rd, which will take place at Culver West Alexander Park. We have one on October 1st, which will be here in Chambers. The November 5th meeting has been canceled, and a special meeting has been scheduled for November 21st. That meeting initially was going to be here in Chambers, but Chambers will be getting an upgrade. So it will now be happening at the Senior Center.
Okay.
Okay.
And
That's
then,
November 21st at
Yes.
Senior Center. Okay.
and then you have your December 3rd meeting here in Chambers. Some upcoming items. So at September 3rd, you will have a report on the contract classes, the structure, programming, and marketing of that. Olin will be present to give you an update on the draft for the parks plan. In October, we will give a report on Fiesta La Biona and a presentation on summer camp and a discussion on the community access to camps. Also, since this went out, I've added for October 1st, there'll be an approval of the 2025 meeting dates. So, please look at your calendars and bring them with you on to the October meeting. And then that special meeting in November, right now you have the plunge policies and rules scheduled, a presentation on that.
I get concerned about some of the subcommittee, I'll be specific with regard to the ad hoc subcommittee that was established at our special meeting with regard to pickleball and court sports. And that subcommittee was, I believe, intended to return with some specific outcomes or possible recommendations or something that they would bring back to the commission in, I don't remember if it was September or if it was October. But I understand that we have a standing item about these updates, but I think it's important for that item to be pulled out and itemized separately so that the public understands when that information would be presented.
May I? So,
Yes.
so the ad hoc subcommittee has not yet really convened yet, so I think September is going to be a non-starter for actually them having a report. That will give us another meeting for them to figure out kind of where they will be. And at that next meeting in September, we can probably figure out when to schedule for them to come back with a report.
Okay.
But yes, it would be a separate line item, but I think right now we still don't know where we're at. And they need enough time to kind of figure out what they're going to do and how they're going to go about doing it. Because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people, a lot of opinions about what they do and how they do it. So,
Well, I just want to make sure that we have a target date. I don't want it floating.
yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I just don't know if we have enough information to even figure out what that would be at this point. I would say, can we target for them to come back and to discuss when they might be able to actually bring us a presentation next month, right? That would be the
September,
target,
they
yeah.
can report on when they can
Yes.
bring it back.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
kind of.
I concur with that, because I think we, for the public, they want to see that it's moving forward. But if we are not certain as to when, I want to give the subcommittee a chance to, get their teeth into it and realize, what it is that they want to do, and then they can come back at the time of the subcommittee reports and explain that, so.
Yeah, the chair might remember the last time we picked up pickleball and how much work and effort that was.
Yes,
So,
I do recall.
yeah, our two most junior members are tackling this, so give them a little time, I think.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've picked up a firecracker, so.
Well, my main point is that because that item has been given special attention and we have a broad range of members of the public who would want to know when it's coming back, that it be identified specifically as an item, regardless of whatever that content is, just that it's not sitting in the updates from ad hoc subcommittees item. That was my
Through the
main.
Could I-
chair, we have an item here that says discussion dates to be determined. Do you want to have it listed under there?
Yeah, that's what I was also going to recommend. If we're that strongly feeling about it, that would be the appropriate place,
Okay, that
I
would be
think.
fine.
So,
Thank you.
so, report from the, what do we call it? The paddle sports ad hoc subcommittee? Can we keep it that brief, or you want to, okay, that's more specific there, yeah.
No, the ad hoc subcommittee is called,
Yeah, he's got it.
the,
Boom, there
okay, I
you go.
can't see that far, sorry.
Dual strike tennis courts and ad hoc subcommittee.
Thank you.
Yeah, so,
Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah. Thank you
There we
very
go.
much. Good, thank you. Okay,
I would offer, so normally, I'm usually the one who gets this started anyway. October, November timeframe is when I like to start talking about the budget, because we do it all open here. So it takes some time and a number of meetings to get through. What are we going to put in it? Here's the draft. Do we need to make any other adjustments? Okay, we make some more adjustments and then final approval. And we need to usually get that in by April. So between a couple meetings, holidays, all that jazz, I like to get those conversations started earlier rather than later. Again, since we've implemented doing that, we've gotten a lot more success out of our letters. So I hope we can continue that. So I'd be looking for, I mean, just looking at the calendar, I'm like, okay, I don't know how busy the meeting in November is going to be with the plunge policies and rules, but maybe the October meeting might be okay for discussion. It's report on Fiesta, which is usually yay, rah, rah, and summer camp, same thing, right? Like, here's what went down. Good work, everybody.
I don't know we have scheduled for the December meeting yet. I think the November meeting, because it's a special meeting, we were trying to keep it to one topic. I think
Yep.
that was what we discussed last month, was keeping it to one topic because of the special meeting. I don't know what we have on the December. That might still be, that's a date you could consider that I'm not,
Yeah, I
there's
mean,
anything on it yet.
Do you want a bigger jump than that?
So,
I
I mean,
mean,
it's up to you, the commissioners. I just,
I'm, like I said, we usually start this conversation. We can start in December, that's fine. It'll give us December, January, February, and March. So I guess that gives us about 4 months, 4 meetings to get through it, which could be enough. So
Okay, so the December meeting.
maybe we'll just schedule that for
and,
December.
and that'll be closer to when we have a final plan for the parks plan too.
Yeah.
We'll start
Yes.
coming around that
'Cause,
time.
yeah, that will also move,
Yeah, I figure that'll dovetail in.
Although I don't expect we'll be asking for $1 million new facilities in our letter, but hey, maybe we try it. I don't know.
All they can do is say no.
I suppose so.
Is there anything else for the meeting calendar? An agenda items list? Okay. Then we'll need we already have a motion, waiting for a second to receive and file that. Okay. Thank you.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Alexander, seconded by Commissioner Bond, to receive and file the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission 2024 meeting calendar and the upcoming agenda item list with adjustments. And you may start voting. And the votes are in, and that passes unanimously.
Thank you. Have any items not on the agenda come up from the public online?
No, we do not have any.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, items from staff?
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. I wanted to just give you a heads up. You know, the Fiesta is coming in a couple weeks. I think we're 2.5 weeks out. Just wanted to make you aware, we will be notifying the public about this as well, but we will be increasing security this year. We will be fencing in the park, and we will be having managed entrances and exits with higher security presence. We will have metal detectors and bag checks and things like that. So just wanted to make you aware of that. And we will be notifying the public, asking them to, prepare, give themselves more time, things like that. So just wanted to give you that heads up. We are looking forward to a really great Fiesta, though. We think it's going to be a really great event. I think the carnivals talked about bringing some new rides, potentially. I think if they got delivered on time, they might have some new rides for us that we've never had. So it's exciting. We have a lot of great food vendors and non-food vendors, and beer and wine gardens back. And yeah, I think it should be a really great event. That's pretty much all I have, but I'm sure my team has some things they want to share.
Through the chair. Thank you. Regarding the security, And are they going to be requiring a clear bag policy that, some venues have that kind of thing? I'm just curious.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening. Just a few updates. Lindbergh will reopen, fences will go down next week. So I know our public is very excited for that. We had another sensory Saturday, this past Saturday, with about 40 kids. We've had 2 of those, and we do plan in the future to make them monthly because they have been very popular. We had a plunge movie night with the Ninja Turtles movie, and we had about 40 people for that as well. And then camps last week is next week. It's been a great summer, and CARP is starting around the corner. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. Francisco Castillo, Recreation and Community Services Manager. Last month was Parks Make Life Better, and the department celebrated by offering movie nights at 4 of our parks. Veterans Memorial Park, Sid Cronenthal Park, Fox Hills, and Culver West Alexander Park. We had a great turnout at each one of our movie nights. At Veterans Memorial Park, we had at minimal 171 attendees. Staff stopped counting because it got dark, but people continued to come through. At Sid Cronenthal Park, we had a total of 53. Again, staff stopped counting at some point, so these are just minimals that we're providing with you this evening. Fox Hills, we had 156, and Culver West Alexander, 150. So we had, for sure, 530 community members that came out for Parks Make Life Better. We want to thank Olin, who came out to Fox Hills. They were able to engage with the community. They also had surveys, and the community were able to provide some feedback. It was a successful opportunity for our community members. Teen Internet also came out to one of our movie nights. They provided boxed candies and different types of giveaways to the community members, which was really nice. And our Historical Society attended the Culver West Alexander movie night. The movie screening was Wizard of Oz, and they had a lot of props from the Historical Society. Community members were able to take photos, and it was a very successful turnout. We want to make sure to just acknowledge everyone for working alongside with us, with the staff, to put on a successful Parks Make Life Better month. We are midway through our celebration for the 2024 Olympics at the Senior Center. So staff created a week of various activities. Last Friday, July 26, was the opening ceremony. Vice Mayor Dan O'Brien attended and provided a speech to our community members. We had in attendance 120 people who attended our opening ceremony. So it was a watch party and different types of arts and crafts and activities that the community participated in. This past Monday, time is flying already. Monday, July 29th, we had 18 attendees who participated in a walking challenge with staff. We also had a basketball shootout with 15 attendees, and a cornhole competition this past Monday with 25 attendees. Tomorrow, we are having a ping pong tournament at the Senior Center, and we have a total of 27 people that are signed up for the ping pong tournament. They're very competitive, but we are definitely emphasizing just having some fun and, offering these activities alongside with the Olympics. And this Friday, August 9th, we are having our closing ceremony from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. If you are able to attend, please stop by and say hi and visit us. It will take place at the Senior Center, and we'll have just different types of activities, music, and light refreshments. That concludes my announcements. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else from anyone?
Nope, I
Any other
believe that's all from,
That's all
all from
from
us.
staff? And
I
anything
did,
from
but I
commissioner?
got so into what you were saying that whatever I was going to say, it was a question about something. But obviously it was a lie, as my dad would say. So I forgot it.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you for all of your hard work, and just carry on in excellent fashion. Okay, so I guess we are ready to adjourn. We need a motion. We have a motion. We need a second to adjourn.
I have a motion by Commissioner Mohammed, seconded by Commissioner Bond, to adjourn. And you may now vote. And that motion passes unanimously. We are adjourned at 8:27 PM.
Thank you very much, everyone.